The year 1914 began like any other, but beneath the surface of everyday life in Europe, tensions simmered. Nationalism, imperialism, and a complex web of alliances created a volatile mix. The spark that ignited the powder keg came on June 28, 1914. On that fateful day, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie were assassinated in Sarajevo. The assassin, Gavrilo Princip, was a Serbian nationalist. Austria-Hungary, blaming Serbia for the act, issued an ultimatum with deliberately unacceptable demands. This was no mere diplomatic maneuver. It was a calculated provocation designed to initiate war. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand was not the sole cause of World War I. It was, however, the catalyst that set in motion a chain of events with terrifying inevitability. Within weeks, the great powers of Europe were mobilizing their armies, bound by treaties and fueled by a dangerous cocktail of ambition and fear. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand triggered a complex web of alliances that rapidly escalated the crisis into a full-blown continental war. Austria-Hungary, assured of German support, declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. Russia, bound by treaty to protect Serbia, began mobilization. Germany, fearing a two-front war, saw Russian mobilization as a threat and declared war on Russia on August 1st. 2 days later, Germany declared war on France, Russia's ally. Germany's war plan, the Schlieffen Plan, relied on a rapid knockout blow against France through neutral Belgium. This act of aggression brought Great Britain into the war on August 4th. Within a month, the great powers of Europe were at war. On one side stood the Central Powers Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. On the other side stood the Allied powers, Great Britain, France, Russia, and eventually Italy and Japan. The world watched in horror as the guns of August ushered in a new and terrifying era of global conflict. The early weeks of the war were marked by rapid movement and flanking maneuvers. German forces, following the Schlieffen Plan, advanced rapidly through Belgium towards Paris. However, the war on the Western Front soon bogged down into a bloody stalemate. Both sides dug in, creating a vast network of trenches that stretched from the English Channel to the Swiss border. Trench warfare was a new and horrific experience for the soldiers of World War I. The trenches were muddy, rat-infested ditches, offering little protection from the elements or the enemy. Life in the trenches was a miserable existence, punctuated by periods of intense boredom and sheer terror. New technologies of war, such as machine guns, artillery, and poison gas, made the battlefield a terrifying and deadly place. Millions of men would die in the trenches of the Western Front, often for gains measured in mere yards. The Western Front was the scene of some of the bloodiest and most brutal battles in human history. The Battle of the Somme, which began on July 1, 1916, epitomized the horrors of trench warfare. On the first day alone, the British Army suffered over 57,000 casualties, making it the bloodiest day in British military history. The Battle of Verdun, which raged from February to December 1916, was another example of the futility of the fighting on the Western Front. Both the French and German armies suffered hundreds of thousands of casualties in a battle that had no clear victor. These battles, along with countless others, resulted in millions of casualties, but achieved little strategic gain. The Western Front became a symbol of the stalemate and senseless slaughter that characterized World War I. Section 5. The World Aflame, Widening Fronts and Global Conflict. While the Western Front remained locked in a bloody stalemate, the war raged on in other theaters. In the East, Russia faced the combined might of Germany and Austria-Hungary. The Eastern Front was characterized by greater fluidity and movement than the Western Front, but it was no less brutal. The Ottoman Empire, allied with the Central Powers, opened up new fronts in the Middle East. British and Commonwealth forces fought the Ottomans in the Gallipoli campaign, a disastrous attempt to capture the Dardanelles Strait. In Mesopotamia, British forces faced a humiliating defeat at Kut al-Amara. World War I was a truly global conflict. It was fought not only in Europe, but also in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Millions of soldiers and civilians from across the globe were drawn into the maelstrom, forever altering the course of human history. Section 6. a flawed peace. The Treaty of Versailles and the seeds of resentment. After more than 4 years of devastating warfare, the guns finally fell silent on November 11, 1918. The armistice that ended World War I brought relief, but not lasting peace. In 1919, the victorious Allied powers met in Paris to negotiate a treaty with defeated Germany. The Treaty of Versailles, signed on June 28, 1919, was meant to ensure a lasting peace. However, the treaty, driven by a desire for retribution and revenge, imposed harsh penalties on Germany. Germany was forced to accept blame for the war, cede territory, disarm, and pay massive reparations. These punitive measures created resentment and instability in Germany. The humiliation of defeat and the economic hardship caused by the treaty created fertile ground for extremist ideologies, setting the stage for another catastrophic conflict. The 1920s witnessed a period of fragile peace and economic recovery. However, the global economic depression of the 1930s shattered this fragile stability. The depression brought about mass unemployment, social unrest, and a loss of faith in democratic institutions. In Germany, the economic crisis played a crucial role in the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Hitler exploited the widespread anger and frustration, promising to restore German pride and prosperity. He offered scapegoats for Germany's problems, blaming Jews, communists, and the Treaty of Versailles for the nation's woes. As Hitler consolidated his power, he began to rebuild Germany's military strength in defiance of the Treaty of Versailles. He also embarked on an aggressive foreign policy, seeking to expand German territory and establish a new European order under Nazi domination. On September 1, 1939, Hitler unleashed his armies against Poland, igniting the Second World War. Following a prearranged agreement, the Soviet Union invaded Poland from the east, partitioning the country between the two totalitarian powers. Britain and France, honoring their treaty obligations to Poland, declared war on Germany on September 3rd. World War II was a global conflict on an even greater scale than World War I. The Axis powers, led by Germany, Italy, and Japan, sought to establish their dominance over Europe and Asia. The Allied powers, led by Great Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union, fought to defeat fascism and preserve freedom. The early years of the war were marked by a series of stunning Axis victories. Germany conquered much of Europe, from France in the west to the outskirts of Moscow in the east. Japan, meanwhile, launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, on December 7, 1941, bringing the United States into the war. Despite facing early setbacks, the Allies rallied. The Battle of Midway, fought in June 1942, marked a turning point in the Pacific War. The Allied victory at El Alamein in North Africa in late 1942 halted the Axis advance in that theater. On the Eastern Front, the Battle of Stalingrad, which raged from August 1942 to February 1943, proved to be a decisive turning point in the war. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad marked the beginning of the end for the Nazi war machine. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces launched the largest amphibious invasion in history, landing on the beaches of Normandy, France. D-Day, as it became known, marked the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi occupation. After more than 6 years of devastating warfare, World War II finally came to an end in 1945. Germany surrendered to the Allies in May, followed by Japan in August after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The world celebrated the defeat of fascism, but the war left an indelible scar on humanity. World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history, claiming the lives of an estimated 40 to 85 million people. The war left Europe and Asia in ruins, with millions homeless and economies shattered. The use of atomic bombs against Japan ushered in the terrifying era of nuclear weapons, casting a long shadow over the post-war world. Out of the ashes of World War II emerged a new global order, dominated by the United States and the Soviet Union. The wartime alliance between these two superpowers soon gave way to suspicion and rivalry, leading to the Cold War, a decades-long ideological and geopolitical struggle that shaped the latter half of the 20th century. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more historical content. Thank you for watching.